Okay, when it comes to moving on with the build of the Enterprise, I've shown you guys quite a bit of add-ons that we have. And all of these add-ons totally are going to transform the kit. Some of the things we're going to do right off the bat, the impulse decks, and that will be right here. The impulse crystal, this all has to be removed, as well as B and C decks. You can see B and C decks are going to have to be removed to the point where we got to get it looking just like that. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the saucer section, because we need to modify a lot of pieces. We need to modify the saucer section, the top and the bottom. We also need to modify the nacelles. We don't have to modify the deflector dish because we have another piece for that, specific for lighting. But, okay. With this part, the lower part, we're going to have to remove this little section, which shouldn't be that bad, and that's really the only modifications we have to make to the bottom of the saucer section. But for the top, we've got to remove B and C decks, and we've got to remove the impulse crystals. Okay, so the thing we're going to start with is we're going to start doing the... We'll just keep these together. Using a fine marker, trace an outline. Then drill a series of holes horizontally using a 0.30 diameter bit along the outline of the kit, the upper hull deck. The hole should be about 1.5 millimeters apart. And again, it says important to not drill holes at an angle. You may have large gaps. Do. So that's the first thing we got to do. So, let me find a fine tip marker. Okay, so we got the, I'm going to use a Sharpie, and we're going to actually trace an outline around the base of B and C decks. So what I'm going to do is, we're going to go above the line. I might have to do it above an angle, but what we're going to do is we're going to grind it down afterwards. I'd rather have to take more material off than have to fill. Okay, moving on to step 2. Following the scoring holes made from drilling, carefully cut away the kit, the upper deck that will be discarded using a sharp X-Acto knife. I'm wondering which one we should use. And what we have to do, we actually have to follow the lines that we made with the drill. So I'm going to go ahead and Gotta have more holes. I thought I had enough, so I went ahead and I doubled everything. Because doing this could really end badly. Let's see if I gotta put even more in. And here is B and C deck removed. As you can see, the outline is still there. And the reason we did the outline, I'm sure, is to be able to smooth this out and get it down to the way it looks in the instructions. Okay, so we did 2. Now we're going on to 3. You can see we used the X-Acto knife and we cut out the B and C decks. So now, using a Dremel grinder bit, trim away the rough edges until the trace lines are smooth. The hole may need to be slightly widened as well. Take your time. Be careful, do not trim too far into the model, or you will have gaps that will need filling. Several test fits may be needed to achieve a snug fit. Okay, so now we're ready to move on to step number 3, and we're going to be using the Dremel tool. And what we're going to do, we're going to grind down. We're going to grind down to bring it smooth. I'm going to worry about bringing it smooth first before we open up the hole. There. You can see how it It's nice and smooth. The edges are all nice. You can see it from the bottom. It looks nice as well. You know, this kind of reminds me of the 1350 Enterprise from Polar Lights. You guys that made the model, you know this top of this primary hull is like this, and then you put the bridge B and C decks on separately. But anyway, let's see how it's going to fit. There's a couple of areas we're going to have to modify. Yeah, that's starting to fit pretty well. And we're going to clean up the bottom of this a little bit, and again, we'll use the plastic putty to fill in B and C decks. And we're ready to move on. What we're going to do now is, we're going to do the impulse crystal section. So let's put this back aside. And we're going to do this section. So we're going to do the same thing. So you can see we did that using CA glue, a quick setting epoxy, and we'll do that later on because we still have to make a few adjustments, but I just want to get basically everything cut out for the most part for now. Alright, so now we're going to move on. We're going to go on to the impulse decks. And you can see the section we're going to remove. And we're going to do the same thing using 1.030 diameter bit on a Dremel, drill a series of holes all on the inside of the outline. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to trace an outline around the area to be removed. And just like we did around B and C decks, we're going to use the magic marker. And what this is going to do is this is going to guide where to drill. Because I learned by doing the section we just did that it's a lot better to have extra material that we can remove with the Dremel as opposed to needing to add filler. So let's go ahead and start here. Alright, as you can see, we took out the material before the line, so now we're going to smooth it out, kind of like we did for the B and C decks. See, that's getting close. We want to get it right there. And let's see, we got just a bit. It's going to be in the front. Okay, so you can see we're getting there. The difference between B and C decks was that went on top and there was a lip that rests on the top part. Well, with this section, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a lip, but it's going to come up from the bottom and it's going to go in that way. So I still need to slowly just kind of cut away to where the wall was before, because it's gonna go, and you can see the bottom. Let me show you guys the bottom. You can tell where it's gonna stop. Because the impulse engines are gonna line up with the curvature of the saucer. See, it's getting close. We need to, let's see, be right about there. So we still need to get it just a little bit closer to the blue. It's getting close. Just about there. Just a little bit more on the sides. There, that looks pretty good. Like I told you guys, we're gonna have to put just a tiny bit of the fill because the lines of this section didn't actually match up perfectly to this. As you can see, there is still a wall that was attached to this section that's still there. See, the blue line is actually where the outline is, the edge, the outer edge of the original piece. But I think this looks pretty good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the bottom half of the, so we're going to take the marker and we're going to do the same thing for the section on the bottom. And this is going to be the section where the impulse engines are going to protrude from. Alright, I'm going to do some more drilling now. Start down here. So we're going to have to put in some more filler because the instructions say to cut out the whole section on the lower saucer, and we cut out the lower section, but you can see there's a wicked gap now where we had cut and we didn't even go below the blue line. So I'm going to have to fill this in, but you can see this is how it's going to look when we have the impulse decks on. And what we'll do is we'll glue these into position, because what we're going to have to do is, according to the instructions, they give us a pattern to cut out some styrene, and the styrene is going to go into the bottom to support it. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to put supports just to keep it in place, and we'll glue this section in first, and then we'll be able to move on to the bottom. And we're going to have to fill in a little bit on the bottom. As you can see, there's just a little bit too much on the bottom, and you can see how that's going to go. Fudge around with that, but hopefully you guys can see. And I know we did a lot of mutilating to the model, and hopefully this is going to pay off when we're able to look in and see the officer's lounge, and we see the impulse engines lit, and we see the impulse crystal, and we're ready to move on. So we did the primary hull, we did the modifications, and incidentally, I'll show you, we're going to put we're going to use the bridge from Lake Monster Details as opposed to the model kit bridge. You can see there's some more detail on there. So that is the modifications that we needed to do to the primary hull. So in the next video, we're going to move on and we're going to do the modifications to the nacelles. So my friends, I thank you for watching, and until the next video, I'll talk to you soon.